Despite its name, Fang was an ordinary small town in a northern province of Chiang Mai, situated on the banks of a river. It made a convenient stopover for river traders and passengers throughout most of the year. A few barges, rafts, and sometimes even a large sailboat could usually be found moored at Fang. But all that was long ago, before the creation of the Trial of Champions. Now, once a year, the river is crammed with boats as people arrive from hundreds of miles around, hoping to witness the breaking of an ancient tradition and see a victor in the Trial of Champions. On the 1st of May each year, warriors and heroes come to Fang to face the test of their lives. Survival is unlikely, yet many take the risk, for the prize is great. A purse of 10,000 gold pieces and the freedom of Chiang Mai forever. But to become champion is no easy task. Some years ago, a powerful baron of Fang called Sukhumvit decided to bring attention to his town by creating the ultimate contest. With the help of the townspeople, he constructed a labyrinth deep in the hillside behind Fang, from which there was only one exit. The labyrinth was filled with all kinds of deadly tricks and traps and loathsome monsters. Sukhumvit had designed it in meticulous detail, so that anybody hoping to face its challenge would have to use their wits as well as weapon skill. When he was finally satisfied that all was complete, he put his labyrinth to the test. He picked 10 of his finest guards, and fully armed, they marched into the labyrinth. They were never seen again. The tale of the ill-fated guards soon spread throughout the land, and it was then that Sukhumvit announced the first Trial of Champions. Messengers and news sheets carried his challenge, 10,000 gold pieces and freedom of Chiang Mai forever to any person surviving the perils of the labyrinth of Fang. The first year, 17 brave warriors attempted the walk, as it later became known. Not one reappeared. As the years passed and the Trial of Champions continued, it attracted more and more challengers and spectators. Fang prospered and would prepare itself months in advance for the spectacle it hosted each May. The town would be decorated, tents erected, dining halls built, musicians, dancers, fire eaters, illusionists, and every sort of entertainer hired, and entries registered from hopeful individuals intent on making the walk. The last week of April found the people of Fang and its visitors in wild celebration. Everybody sang, danced, and laughed until the day broke on the 1st of May, when the town thronged to the gates of the labyrinth to watch the first challenger of the year step forward to face the Trial of Champions. Having seen one of Sukhumvit's challenges nailed to a tree, you decide that this year you will attempt the walk. For the last 5 years, you have been attracted to it not for the rewards, but for the simple fact that nobody has ever yet emerged victorious from the labyrinth. You intend to make this the year in which a champion is crowned. Gathering up a few belongings, you set off immediately. 2 days' walk takes you west to the coast, where you enter the cursed port, Black Sand. Wasting no time in that city of thieves, you buy your passage on a small boat sailing north to where the river Coke meets the sea, and from there you raft upriver for 4 days, until finally you arrive in Fang. The trial begins in 3 days' time, and the town is in an almost hysterical mood of excitement. You register your entry with the officials and are given a violet scarf to tie around your arm, informing everyone of your status. For 3 days, you enjoy Fang's greatest hospitality and are treated like a demigod. During the long merriment, you almost forget your purpose in Fang, but the evening before the trial, the magnitude of the task ahead begins to dominate your thoughts. Later, you are taken to a special guest house and are shown your room. There is a splendid 4-poster bed with satin sheets to help you rest, but there is little time left for sleep. Just before dawn, a trumpet call awakens you from vivid dreams of flaming pits and giant black spiders. Minutes later, there is a knock on your door, and a man's voice rings out saying, "Your challenge begins soon. Please be ready to leave in 10 minutes. You climb out of bed, walk over to the window and open the shutters. Already people are thronging the streets, moving quietly through the morning mist. Spectators, no doubt on their way to the labyrinth, hoping to find good vantage points from which to watch the competitors. Walking over to a wooden table on which your trusty sword and shield lie, you pick them up and cut the air with a mighty sweep, wondering which beasts your sword's sharp edge may soon have to meet. You open the door into the corridor, and a small man greets you with a low bow as you emerge from your bedroom. "Please follow me," he says. He turns to his left and walks quickly towards the stairs at the end of the corridor. Walking through a parting in the crowds, you see Baron Succumbit himself, standing by the entrance waiting to greet the contender in the trial of champions. You count 5 others standing proudly in line, their violet scarves displayed for all to see. There are 2 bare-chested barbarians dressed in furs. They stand completely motionless, legs straight and slightly apart, arms thrust forward to rest on the hilts of their long, double-headed battle axes. A sleek elven woman with golden hair and feline green eyes is adjusting the crossbelt of daggers wrapped around her leather tunic. Of the 2 remaining men, one is covered from head to foot in iron plate armor, with a plumed helmet and a crested shield. The other is cloaked in black robes, only his dark eyes showing between the swarms of his black-faced scars. Long knives, a wire garrote, and other silent death weapons hang from his belt. The 5 contenders acknowledge your arrival with almost imperceptible nods of the head, and you turn to face the exultant crowd for the last time. Suddenly, a hush falls over the crowd as Baron Succumbit steps forward, holding 6 bamboo sticks. You draw one from his outstretched hand, and you read the word, 5th. Then the trial begins. The knight is first. He salutes the crowd before disappearing into the tunnel, and is followed half an hour later by the elf. Next goes a barbarian, and then the dark assassin. Next, it's your turn. But before embarking on your adventure, we must first determine your own strengths and weaknesses. You have in your possession a sword, a shield, and a backpack for carrying provisions for the trip. You have been preparing for your quest by training yourself in swordplay and exercising vigorously. To see how effective your preparations have been, dice will be rolled to determine your skill, stamina, and luck scores. Or, if you wish to begin your adventure immediately, you can choose between 3 ready-made adventurers. First, we'll roll for your initial level of skill. This reflects your sword skill and fighting expertise, and will be determined by rolling 1 die and adding 6. Next, we'll roll for your initial stamina, which represents your strength. So the higher your stamina score, the longer you will survive. This will be determined by rolling 2 dice and adding 12. Next, we'll roll for your initial luck, which represents how lucky an adventurer you are. Luck and magic are facts of life in the fantasy world you're about to explore. This is determined by rolling 1 die and adding 6. You may also take a magical potion with you to aid you on your quest. Each bottle of potion contains 2 measures, so can be used twice during an adventure. You can choose from a potion of skill that restores your skill points to their initial amount, a potion of strength that restores your stamina points to their initial amount, or a potion of fortune that not only restores your luck points to their initial amount, but will also increase your initial luck score by 1 each time it's used. Lastly, before you begin your quest, you are given enough provisions for 10 meals. When you eat a meal, your stamina score will increase by 4 points. But don't forget, your stamina can never exceed the initial amounts you've just set. You have a long way to go, so use your provisions wisely. During your adventure, you'll enter into combat a number of times, and the further you go, the tougher your opponents will be. Combat takes place over several rounds, and your attack strength is based on yours and your enemy's skill scores. For each round of battle, we'll roll 2 dice for you and 2 for your opponent, adding the results to your skill scores. These are your respective attack strengths. Whoever's attack strength is the highest wins that round of combat. If you both had the same attack strength in a round, then it will be a tie. In some battles, you can take an opportunity to escape. But beware. If you do run away, your opponent will automatically score 1 hit on you as you flee, costing you 2 stamina points. So be sure you have enough. Such is the price of cowardice. You are playing using the new battle system, where the battle takes place over 3 rounds. Your sheer battle-hardened nature will mean you'll always win the battle after the 3 rounds, but every round you lose will cost you 2 stamina points. So be careful. Losing all your stamina will still be fatal. At the start of each round, you'll have a short time to decide to fight or to build up your stamina by eating your provisions or taking a potion, if you have one. You are playing using the traditional battle system from the original Deathtrap Dungeon book. At the start of each round, you'll have a short time to decide to fight or to build up your stamina by eating your provisions or taking a potion, if you have one. After each battle round, you'll be able to test your luck. By using luck in battles, you can either score a more serious wound on your opponent or minimize the effects of a wound scored on you. If you test your luck after you have just wounded your opponent, we'll roll 2 dice, and if the total is the same or less than your current luck score, you will have been lucky and will take an extra 2 points from your opponent's stamina. But if the roll is greater, then the damage to your opponent will be halved. If your opponent has just inflicted a 2 stamina wound on you, a lucky roll will halve that damage, but an unlucky roll will take an additional stamina point. One last thing. Testing your luck has a cost. Each time you test your luck score will be reduced by 1 point. Now it is your turn to salute the crowd. Holding your violet scarf aloft, you take one final deep breath of cool, fresh air before turning to pass between a stone-pillared gateway into circumvit's corridors of power to face unknown perils on the walk through the mighty Baron's Deathtrap Dungeon. The clamour of the excited spectators gradually fades behind you as you venture deep into the gloom of the cavern. Large crystals hang from the tunnel roof at 20-metre intervals, radiating just enough soft light for you to see your way. As your eyes gradually become accustomed to the near darkness, you begin to see movement all around. Spiders and beetles crawling up and down the chiselled walls disappear quickly into cracks and crevices as they sense your approach. Rats and mice scurry along the floor ahead of you. Droplets of water drip into small pools with an eerie plopping sound which echoes down the tunnel. The air is cold, moist, and dank. After walking slowly along the tunnel for about 5 minutes, you arrive at a stone table standing against the wall to your left. On it, there are 6 boxes, one of which has your name painted on its lid. The lid of the box lifts off easily, and inside you find 2 gold pieces and a note written on a small piece of parchment addressed to you. After placing the gold in your pocket, you read the message, which says, "Well done. At least you had the sense to stop and take advantage of the token aid given to you. Now I can advise you that you will need to find and use several items if you hope to pass triumphantly through my Deathtrap Dungeon. Signed, Succumbit. Memorizing the advice on the note, you tear it into tiny pieces and continue north along the tunnel, where you come to a junction. A white arrow painted on one wall points west. On the floor, you can see wet footprints made by those who entered before you. It's hard to be sure, but it looks as though 3 of them followed the direction of the arrow, while 1 decided to go east. Following the 3 sets of wet footprints along the west passage of the tunnel, you soon arrive at a junction. Walking along the tunnel, you are surprised to see a large iron bell hanging down from the ceiling. A dull bong sounds from the bell like a death toll. Everything around you begins to vibrate. You grit your teeth as your head starts to shudder. Your whole body is trembling. You fall to the floor, losing 2 skill points and 2 stamina points. You quiver and shake, writhing convulsively on the floor as the vibrations intensify. You search desperately for a way of stopping the bell. You pull your boot off your foot and force yourself to reach up and hold it against the bell. And slowly, the bell stops vibrating, and the pain in your body gradually eases. You manage to stand up, but you do not release your boot from the bell until it becomes completely still. You put your boot back on and continue your journey west. The tunnel veers sharply to the right and continues north for as far as you can see. You hear a tremendous commotion in the distance, growling and snarling and howling. You draw your sword and set off in the direction of the noise. Ahead, in the dim light, you see 2 hobgoblins fighting, punching, and kicking each other furiously. Next to where the hobgoblins are fighting, there is a leather bag lying on the floor, and it seems to be this that they are fighting over. You creep up behind the fighting hobgoblins, and leaping out of the shadows, you push them into the wall as you run by. Looking back, you see them sprawled on the floor and chuckle to yourself as you hurry on north. The tunnel soon takes another sharp right turn. Following it east, you arrive at a strange obstruction, a row of 12 wooden poles across the tunnel. They are fixed to the walls at each end, about half a meter off the floor and spaced about a meter apart. You step slowly over and between the poles, taking care not to touch any of them. This will be a test of your skill, like the luck test. We'll roll 2 dice,
And if the number rolled is equal to or less than your current skill score, you have been skillful. But if the roll is higher than your skill score, then you aren't skillful enough. You step slowly over and between the poles, taking care not to touch any of them. After resting for a while, you set off east again. The tunnel ends at a junction. The footprints you have been following turn north, and you decide to stay with them. You soon come to another junction in the tunnel. One branch leads east, but the wet footprints you have been following continue north, and you decide to follow their trail. The passage opens out into a wide cabin which is darker but much drier. Ahead, you see the footprints gradually fade, then disappear. There is a large idol in the center of the cabin that must be 6 meters high. In its head are jeweled eyes, each as big as your fist. On either side of the idol stand 2 giant stuffed, bird-like creatures. Not much farther down the tunnel, you come to a closed door on your left. Putting your ear to the door, you listen intently but hear nothing. You enter a room which is small and completely empty. As soon as you are inside, the door slams shut behind you. Suddenly a voice booms out of nowhere, shouting, "Welcome to Deathtrap Dungeon, the ingenious killer labyrinth of my master. Adventurer, I trust you will pay your respects to my master by shouting out his name." You take a deep breath and shout, "Succumvit as a worm!" Once again, the mysterious voice calls out, only this time, to your great surprise, in a far less threatening tone. Good. My master likes those who show spirit. Take this gift to help you. It will grant you one wish, but one wish only. Farewell. A gold ring magically appears out of nowhere and lands at your feet with a gentle tinkle. You pick it up and put it on one of your fingers. The door opens and you step back into the tunnel to continue north. The tunnel twists and turns, but keeps steadily north. Ahead, you see a thin shaft of blue light streaming down from the ceiling to the floor. It sparkles and shimmers, and you can see images of laughing faces in the light. As soon as your head goes under the blue light, you hear the sound of muffled voices. The faces are no longer laughing, but have changed their expressions to one of despair and anguish. A young girl's sad face hovers in front of you, and she begins to whisper a poem. Transfixed, you listen intently, believing that she has a special message for you as she recites, "When corridor doth water meet, do not make a quick retreat. Take a breath and jump deep in, if your trial you hope to win." Memorizing the spirit girl's poem, you step through the shaft of light and quickly head on north. You come to an arched doorway set in the right-hand wall of the tunnel. The heavy stone door is closed, but there is an iron latch and a round handle. Lifting the latch and pushing the heavy stone door open, you find yourself in a large cabin. The light is dim and murky, but as your eyes begin to adjust, you see that the walls are covered in green algae and running with moisture. The floor is strewn with straw. The atmosphere is warm, damp, and fetid, and a soft humming sound fills the air. You step gingerly through the straw towards a corner of the cabin where there appears to be a shallow pit. Peering warily into the pit, you are disgusted to see a mass of pale, writhing worms, some as much as 1/2 meter long. Nauseated, you are about to turn away when you notice that their undulating bodies are swarming around a dagger, its point held fast in a crack in the pit floor. The hilt is cased in black leather, studded with opals, and the blade is fashioned from a strange, reddish-black burnished metal you have never seen before. You long to touch the dagger, but this would mean plunging your hand in among the writhing worms. Taking a deep breath, you lean over the pit and plunge your forearm into the mass of wriggling worms. They are cold and clammy and feel extremely nasty, but at least they are harmless, and you are able to seize the dagger by the hilt. You give it a hard tug and it comes away from the crack in which the tip was embedded. Admiring its beauty, and wondering whether it might once have belonged to some luckless contestant, you put the opal-studded dagger firmly in your belt and leave the cabin. As you make your way back to the doorway, the buzzing sound increases in intensity, and you look around desperately to discover where it's coming from. Glancing up in the nick of time, you see a huge and grotesque black shape of a giant fly emerging from a recess high up in the cavern wall. As it gets closer, you realize that it's at least 1.5 meters long. Its opaque wings vibrate, making the sickening buzzing noise you can hear, and its 6 black, hairy legs are poised to grasp your body. Below, Its multifaceted eyes is a long, shiny black proboscis, which darts in and out venomously. You have stolen the giant fly's treasure from her brood of maggots, and you must face the consequences. It's time to test your luck again. Remember, a roll equal to or less than your luck score means you've been lucky, but a roll higher than your luck could end badly. The giant fly swoops down again to try to capture you, but this time you manage to evade its outstretched legs. Stepping back, you draw your sword to prepare to fight the hideous insect as it turns to attack you again.
You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
Again, it grabs you with 4 of its legs, climbing quickly and dropping you to the floor, landing heavily.
You try your luck, and your luck is in.
The creature flies at you so close you can't use your weapons. Grabbing it by its legs, you swing around, slamming it into a wall.
You try your luck, and your luck is in.
You spin your sword around your head, clipping the fly and removing part of one of its legs. You hurl yourself at your enemy, fist flailing, and land a stunning blow. Pleased with your victory, you wipe the vile yellow slime from the blade of your sword and walk quickly to the door, back to the tunnel, and head north. The tunnel ends shortly at a junction. Looking left and right, you see a narrow passage disappearing into the dim distance. Ahead, you hear the sound of rocks being ground and crushed. The noise grows louder, and suddenly you realize that the wall on your right is starting to collapse. Terrified, you watch as a large, hideous, worm-like creature with a gaping mouth and powerful mandibles slithers through a hole in the wall. Its great jaws continue to crunch the rock as it turns its head slowly from side to side, feeling the cool air in the tunnel. It appears to be totally blind, but seems to know of your presence, perhaps sensing the heat of your body. It starts to slither towards you with its mandibles wide apart to attack. You draw your sword and advance slowly towards the huge, slimy rock grub. The rock grub is strong, but slow. You swing your sword, which smashes into its pulsating body. Snapping at you with its mandibles, The creature catches your leg. You're able to fight it off, but the wound is deep. You thrust your sword, and you clearly damage the creature. Picking up a rock, you manage to smash it into the head of the rock grub. It screeches in pain, withdrawing enough for you to ready for another attack. The rock grub is strong, but slow. You swing your sword, which smashes into its pulsating body. You thrust your sword, and you clearly damage the creature. Picking up a rock, you manage to smash it into the head of the rock grub. It screeches in pain, withdrawing enough for you to ready for another attack. Pleased with your combat skills, you step round the great bulk of the dead rock grub and peer into the darkness of the borehole it left. You can only see a few meters, but are able to make out that it inclines slightly and is wet from the secreted slime of the rock grub. Tapping the side of the borehole with your sword, you tread your way blindly through the sticky slime. You follow its twisting and turning course for what seems an age and begin to wonder where it might lead. Suddenly, you hear a slithering sound up ahead. You freeze with fear, your eyes desperately trying to pierce the pitch-black darkness. Before you realize what is happening, you are gripped round the neck by the powerful mandibles of another rock grub. It is the mate of the rock grub you killed and has been attracted by the smell of blood on your sword. It squeezes harder until your neck snaps like a small twig. Your adventure ends here. Ahead, you hear the sound of rocks being ground and crushed. The noise grows louder, and suddenly you realize that the wall on your right is starting to collapse. Terrified, you watch as a large, hideous, worm-like creature with a gaping mouth and powerful mandibles slithers through a hole in the wall. Its great jaws continue to crunch the rock as it turns its head slowly from side to side, feeling the cool air in the tunnel. It appears to be totally blind, but seems to know of your presence, perhaps sensing the heat of your body. It starts to slither towards you with its mandibles wide apart to attack. You walk down the passage and soon find yourself standing at the edge of a deep, dark pit. The passage continues east on the other side of the pit. You think you could probably jump over the pit, but you are not sure. There is a rope hanging down from the ceiling over the center of the pit. Gripping the rope firmly, you step back to take a running jump. However, In the dim light, you do not notice that someone has cut the rope almost in two, just a little way above the section you are holding. As you swing out across the pit, it suddenly breaks, and you scream with fear as you plunge headlong to the depths below. You land heavily on your back, but luckily your backpack cushions your fall, only costing you 1 skill point and 2 stamina points. It could have been much worse. The darkness is almost pitch black at the bottom of the pit, and you crawl along the floor, groping in front of you. Suddenly your hand touches something cold, hard and smooth. The object is small and round, but you cannot figure out what it is. You place it in your backpack, hoping to see what it is once you are out of the pit. You continue to crawl forward and soon reach the pit wall. It's too smooth to climb, and you have to cut hand and toe holds in it with your sword. This takes a long time, but finally you climb out of the pit on the east side. You immediately check out the object in your backpack and discover that you have found an orb of blood-red ruby. You are absolutely delighted and head off east in high spirits, whistling softly. The tunnel makes a sudden left turn and continues north as far as you can see. You soon arrive at a closed wooden door in the left-hand wall. The door opens into a large candlelit room filled with incredibly lifelike statues of knights and warriors. A white-haired old man dressed in tattered rags jumps out from behind one of the statues and starts to giggle. Though he looks like a fool, the sparkle in his eyes makes you think there is more to him. In a high-pitched voice, he says, "Oh, good! Another stone for my garden. I'm glad you have come to join your friends. Now, I'm a fair man, so I'll ask you a question. If you answer correctly, I'll let you go free. But if your answer is wrong, I'll turn you to stone." He starts to chuckle again, obviously pleased with your arrival. The old man points at one of the statues, and you recognize it immediately. It is the knight who started the trial of champions. The agonized look on his face locked in stone for eternity. The old man smiles, saying,
"This man weighs 100 pounds plus half his weight. How much does he weigh?"
"What will you answer?" Still smiling, the old man looks at you and says quietly, "Wrong." And before you can do anything else, he mumbles a few strange words into the air. You feel your muscles harden and your skin go taut. You start to panic, but there is nothing you can do to stop the petrification of your body. Your adventure ends here. The tunnel makes a sudden left turn and continues north as far as you can see. You soon arrive at a closed wooden door in the left-hand wall. The door opens into a large candlelit room filled with incredibly lifelike statues of knights and warriors. A white-haired old man dressed in tattered rags jumps out from behind one of the statues and starts to giggle. Though he looks like a fool, the sparkle in his eyes makes you think there is more to him. In a high-pitched voice, he says, "Oh, good! Another stone for my garden. I'm glad you have come to join your friends. Now, I'm a fair man, so I'll ask you a question. If you answer correctly, I'll let you go free. But if your answer is wrong, I'll turn you to stone." He starts to chuckle again, obviously pleased with your arrival. The old man points at one of the statues, and you recognize it immediately. It is the knight who started the trial of champions. The agonized look on his face locked in stone for eternity. The old man smiles, saying,
This man weighs 100 pounds plus half his weight. How much does he weigh?
"What will you answer?" Still smiling, the old man looks at you and says,
Well done, stranger. You have answered correctly. I wish you good fortune during the rest of the trial of champions. And to this end, I shall increase your powers.
He then mutters a few more unintelligible words, and you feel a powerful surge soar through your body, increasing your skill, stamina, and luck by 1. You bid the old man farewell and leave his room to continue north along the passage. Only a few meters further down the passage, you see another closed door in the left-hand wall. The letter X is scratched into its center panel. Putting your ear to the door, you listen intently but can hear nothing. The passage slowly starts to climb, leading you relentlessly northwards. There are no doorways or even an alcove to investigate, and you become less guarded as you plod on. After a while, you become so nonchalant that you fail to notice a thin tripwire stretched low across the passage. It is only when your foot catches it and you hear a distant rumble that you realize your mistake. The rumbling sound swells to an almost deafening level, and suddenly, out of the gloom of the tunnel ahead, you see a massive boulder rolling towards you, gathering speed with every second. You turn to flee the oncoming boulder. You run faster than you have ever run in your life. But still the boulder is catching up on you. This is a tough one, a test of both your skill and stamina. We'll roll 2 dice, and if the number rolled is equal to or less than both your skill and stamina scores, you should be fine. But if the number rolled is more than either of them, then things could end very badly. Your fear gives you a new surge of energy, and somehow your tired legs manage to keep you in front of the boulder. Ahead, on your right, you see the welcome sight of a doorway. You lunge at the door, and mercifully it flies open. The boulder thunders past you, and you are left lying exhausted on the floor of a large room. Looking around you, you see an alcove in the west wall and a stone chair in the middle of the room. Sitting in the chair is the skeleton of an armed warrior, possibly a contestant from years gone by. The skeletal fingers of its right hand grip a crumpled parchment. At the back of the alcove, are some steps leading down into a cellar. Cobwebs brush your face as you descend. The cellar ceiling is quite low, and the floor is strewn with debris. In the middle of the wall opposite you is an archway, which leads into another crystal-lit tunnel. There are large mushrooms growing on the debris to your right. The tunnel continues west for several hundred meters, finally ending at some steps leading up to a closed trapdoor. You climb the steps slowly, hearing muffled voices above you. In the dim light, you can see that the trapdoor is not locked. You hear footsteps and suddenly the trapdoor is thrown back. For a few seconds you are completely blinded by the bright light from the room above and do not see the goblin thrust in his spear downwards or hear his sadistic laughter as the point pierces your neck. Your adventure ends here. The tunnel continues west for several hundred meters, finally ending at some steps leading up to a closed trapdoor. You climb the steps slowly, hearing muffled voices above you. In the dim light, you can see that the trapdoor is not locked. You throw the trapdoor open and run up the steps into a bright, lantern-lit room. Two goblins are sharpening their short swords on a stone set in the middle of the floor. You catch them momentarily off guard, but they quickly recover and both rush forward to attack you. A point of note here, adventurer. Because of the shape of the room, both goblins will have a separate attack on you in each attack round. However, here your attack will only be effective on one of the goblins. Against the other, you must still use your attack strength in a normal way. But even if your attack would have been effective, you will not wound it. It will just count this as though you have defended yourself. However, if its attack strength is greater, it will have wounded you in the normal way.
You hurl yourself at your enemy, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow. You both swing for each other, and in the confusion, both miss. You thrust your sword, and you clearly damage the creature. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn, but the creature whips around, parrying your blow. Neither of you are harmed. Your enemy is strong, but slow, and screams in pain as your sword sinks into his leg. You hurl yourself at your enemy, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow. You thrust your sword, and you clearly damage the creature.
Triumphant in one of your toughest battles to date, you see that the only furniture in the goblin's room is a table, 2 chairs, and a cupboard on the wall. There are 2 closed doors, one in the west wall and the other in the north wall. The cupboard contains a wooden mallet and 10 iron spikes, which you put in your backpack while wondering which door to open. The door opens into another tunnel, which rises gently into the distance. After walking uphill for a while, the tunnel levels out, and you soon arrive at a door in the right-hand wall, to which a withered hand is nailed. You enter a room in which a man in tattered clothing is standing chained to the wall by his left arm, and you see that his right hand is missing and realize that this must be the one nailed to the door. Pleading for mercy, he cowers back from you as far as his chains will allow. You step up to the frightened man and cleave the chain with your sword. He drops to his knees and bows, thanking you over and over again. He tells you that 4 years ago, he entered the Trial of Champions but failed. He fell down a pit and had to be rescued by a trial master, one of Baron Sukhumvit's dungeon administrators. He was offered a choice between death or servitude in Deathtrap Dungeon as the trial master's minion. Choosing the latter, he worked like a slave until he could stand it no longer and tried to escape. Alas, he was unsuccessful and was captured by the trial master's wandering orc guards. To teach him a lesson, they cut off his hand and condemned him to a year's imprisonment in this cell. You ask him whether he has any information that might be of use to you. He scratches his head. Well, I haven't exactly done very well in here myself, but I do know that you need to collect gems and precious stones if you hope to get out. I don't know why, but there it is. Without another word, the ragged prisoner dashes out of the room, turning left into the tunnel. You decide to keep heading north and turn right. There is an open pipe in the right-hand wall, about 1 meter in diameter. It is too dark to see far down it. You shout into it and hear your voice echoing down the iron pipe until eventually the sound fades away. The pipe is wet and slimy, but you crawl on into the dank darkness, slithering and sliding as you go. Suddenly your hand touches something hard and square, which feels as if it is made of wood. It rattles as you shake it, and you decide you must be holding a box. In the total darkness, you do not see the pipe's downward turn. You slip and, unable to get a grip on the slimy pipe, slide over the edge. Your screams echo down the pipe as you fall the 50 meters head first to the bottom. You have failed the Trial of Champions. There is an open pipe in the right-hand wall, about 1 meter in diameter. It is too dark to see far down it. You shout into it and hear your voice echoing down the iron pipe until eventually the sound fades away. There is a new branch in the tunnel on your left, and ahead you see two bodies lying on the floor. You stop and peer down the new tunnel, but seeing no doors or creatures, you decide against walking down it. With your sword drawn, you walk over to the bodies of the two orc guards. At least one of your rivals in the Trial of Champions must still be ahead of you. A quick search of the bodies produces nothing, apart from a necklace of teeth around the neck of one of the orcs. The necklace is an amulet of strength, which adds 1 skill point and 1 stamina point. Pleased with your find, you continue your quest north. The tunnel soon ends at a junction. Standing there alone and wondering which way to go is one of your rivals. It is one of the barbarians. You call out to him, but at first he does not answer. He merely stares at you coldly, his hands firmly gripping his axe. You walk up to him and ask which way he is heading. He grunts his reply, saying that he is going west, and you may go with him if you wish. Although you are slightly uneasy in each other's company, knowing that there can only be one winner in the Trial of Champions, you are both content to share in the benefits of a temporary alliance. And you begin to tell each other of your exploits so far, of the monsters and traps encountered and the dangers overcome. Walking along, you soon come to the edge of a wide pit. It is too deep and dark to see to the bottom. The barbarian suggests he lowers you to the bottom with his rope, saying he has a torch which he can light for you to use. The barbarian, who tells you he is called Throm, ties the rope around his waist, giving you the free end. As he lights the torch, you see a look of distrust in his eyes. Slowly, he climbs over the edge of the pit, while you brace yourself and take the strain of the rope. As you lower him little by little, you see the smooth sides of the pit, illuminated by Throm's torch. He finally reaches the bottom and calls up to you, saying that there is another tunnel running north. He tells you to secure the rope around a rock protruding from the edge of the pit and lower yourself to the bottom. After tying the rope around the rock, you lower yourself slowly to the bottom of the pit. Throm retrieves his rope by shaking it off the rock, and you set off together down the new tunnel. On a stone ledge in the tunnel wall, you see 2 dusty leather-bound books. Throm grunts his contempt for the written word, urging you to leave the books and hurry on. As you open the book, it immediately begins to disintegrate, the pages turning to dust in your hands. You manage to keep a few fragments and read the handwritten script. The book appears to be about monsters, and from what you can make out, it contains a full description of a monster called the Blood Beast. It is a horrific, bloated creature with tough, spiny skin and facial blisters which burst open to become mock eyes, evolved to hide the Blood Beast's only weak spot, the real eyes. Blood beasts usually dwell in pools of fetid slime which give off a poisonous gas so strong that it alone can easily knock people unconscious. The blood beast, although too bulbous to haul itself out of its slime pool, has a long and vicious tongue which it wraps around its victims before it drags them into its pool. As the helpless and still living victim's flesh decomposes in the vile slime, the blood beast will feed on it. You tell Throm about the grotesque blood beast. He merely shrugs his shoulders and tells you to get going. The book pages are sealed together, but a small hole has been cut out in the middle of them, just large enough to hold a small corked bottle containing a clear liquid. You show it to Throm, who holds up his hand, indicating that he does not want you to come anywhere near him with it. His distrust of things unknown is strongly evident. You rub the liquid into your wounds, but they do not heal. Staring into the empty bottle, you wonder what exactly the liquid was. Setting off, you continue your journey north with Throm. The tunnel turns sharply to the right, continuing east for as far as you can see. Throm stops and tells you to halt as well. He turns his head slowly from side to side, listening. I hear footsteps coming down the tunnel towards us, he whispers. Draw your sword. You both crouch down to hide in the shadows, and not a minute too soon. For a moment later, you see the silhouette of two armed guards. Throm jumps up and dashes forward, screaming a loud battle cry. They are two cave trolls. Throm attacks the first one with his battle axe, and you run to his aid to attack the second.
You drop to the ground, grab the creature, and ram its head hard into the wall. The troll grabs you by the throat and manages to half choke you before you get a chance to push it off. You hurl yourself at your enemy, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow. You parry the attack, but your enemy is too strong, and you crack your head on the floor as you hit the ground.
You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
The troll swings low, crashing into your ankles, knocking you off balance. You drop to the ground, sweeping away the troll's legs. It howls as its head hits the hard ground. The troll grabs you by the throat and manages to half choke you before you get a chance to push it off.
You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
The troll takes a swing at your head. Thankfully, you duck just in time. You parry the attack, but your enemy is too strong, and you crack your head on the floor as you hit the ground. You drop to the ground, grab the creature, and ram its head hard into the wall. You hurl yourself at your enemy, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow. The troll swings low, crashing into your ankles, knocking you off balance. You drop to the ground, sweeping away the troll's legs. It howls as its head hits the hard ground.
You look to the left and see Throm standing over the cave troll he has slain. Blood is pouring out from a deep cut in his shoulder, but it does not seem to worry him. You search the bodies of the cave trolls, but find nothing apart from a bone ring on a leather cord hanging round the neck of one of them. The ring is engraved with a symbol which Throm recognizes. He explains that it must have belonged to druids of the north, and that an ancient talisman such as this will increase your powers if your body is able to accept it. As soon as you put the ring on your finger, your whole body starts to shake. We'll see how skillful you really are. Remember, a roll equal to or less than your skill score means you've been skillful, but a roll higher than your skill could end badly. Your body continues to vibrate intensely, and you feel as if you're about to pass out, but your strength is great, and you manage to withstand the tremendous shock to your system. Finally, you calm down and begin to feel the ring's beneficial powers working on you and adding 3 stamina points. You see Throm looking at you anxiously, so you reassure him that you are fully recovered. He strides off east, and you follow him eagerly. The tunnel leads into a damp cavern with a high ceiling and rock-strewn floor. Long and wet, teeth-like stalactites hang down threateningly. Their constant dripping creates milky pools on the floor. The tunnel carries on through an archway carved in the shape of a demonic mouse. You walk around the cavern, but find nothing of interest. Throm calls out behind you, saying that he has found a leather pouch under a pile of rocks. Opening the pouch, he laughs out loud as a tiny mouse runs through his fingers and scurries off into the crevice behind 2 boulders. Suddenly, you hear the sound of cracking rock above you and look up to see stalactites breaking off from the roof. Throm's booming laugh, which still echoes through the chamber, has made the stalactites vibrate and break off. You yell at Throm to run through the archway as the stalactites start to crash to the floor. This will be a test of your luck. Despite the stalactites crashing all around you, you manage to dash through the archway without injury. You look around and see Throm thundering towards you, one arm held over his head for protection. He dashes into the tunnel and leans against the cold wall, panting heavily, apologizing for starting the rockfall, and offers you his hand to shake. You tell Throm that maybe he should use sign language in future, even for laughing. You both smile and head east once more. The tunnel ends at a large oak door. Throm wastes no time in testing the handle and is somewhat surprised to find the door unlocked. He pushes it open and walks into a torch-lit chamber. Sitting alone on an ornate chair is a dwarf who bids you enter. As you do so, the oak door swings shut behind you. Adventurers, you have done well to get this far, says the dwarf in a deep voice. However, as you both know, there can only be one winner in the Trial of Champions. As Trial Master, it is my duty to Baron Circumvit to let only the most able continue. Therefore, I must devise a test of wits and strength to eliminate one of you. Please do not attempt to dispose of me. It will be utterly pointless, for, as you can see, there is no obvious way out of this chamber, and only I know where the hidden exit lies. Know if you would care to decide between you who will go first. I shall make the necessary preparations. You look at Throm, suddenly angry that your effective partnership might come to an end. He leans over and whispers in your ear that you should try to kill the dwarf and worry about the exit later. You tell Throm that there is no point in killing the dwarf, as you will never find your way out of the chamber alone. You argue that an opportunity of tricking the dwarf might arise later, once you have found the exit from the chamber. So you intend to go through with the dwarf's test. You tell the dwarf that you are ready, and he beckons you to follow him, telling Throm to wait for his return. A secret door opens in the chamber wall, and you follow the dwarf into a small circular room. He closes the door behind you and hands you 2 bone dice, telling you to throw them onto the floor. You roll a 6 and a 2, a total of 8. The dwarf asks you to roll them again, but this time you must predict whether the total will be the same, less, or more than the 8. The dwarf looks at the dice.
Not very good at playing the odds, are you?
He sneers.
I regret you must suffer a penalty before you can continue.
From out of his pocket, he produces 2 pills. One is stamped with the letter S, and the other stamped with the letter L. He asks you to choose one and swallow it. The pill makes you feel as though the whole world is against you, reducing your luck points by 2. The dwarf tells you that you can now go on to the second stage of the test. He reaches for a wicker basket which, he informs you, contains a snake. He tips the basket over and the snake drops out onto the floor. It is a cobra, and it rears up in the air, ready to strike. The dwarf tells you that he wishes to test your reactions. You must grasp the cobra bare-handed below its head, avoiding its deadly fangs. You crouch down on the floor, tensing yourself for the moment at which to seize it. This will be a tough test of your skill. With lightning speed, you thrust your hand out and grip the cobra just below its open mouth. You lift it up, and with your arm outstretched, you dangle it in front of the dwarf. He doesn't flinch, but says in his calm, expressionless way,
Please put the cobra back in the basket and prepare for the final part of the test. Follow me.
You do what he says and follow him back into the chamber, where Throm is pacing up and down, obviously ill at ease. You wave to him while the dwarf opens a second secret door and tells you to walk on through and wait for him. Again you comply, and you find yourself in another circular room, although this one resembles a small arena. The floor is covered with sand, and a small balcony runs around the arena wall. Opposite the secret entrance you came in through is an ominous-looking wooden door. Suddenly you hear a shout, and you look up to see the smiling dwarf standing on the balcony. He throws 2 pieces of paper down to you. On one of them, the words, "No crop is," are written. On the other, "Ruin moat." In his ever-calm voice, he says,
If you rearrange the letters of the words, you will find the names of 2 creatures. You may choose which one to fight in my arena of death.
Can you identify the creature by rearranging the letters? You call out to the dwarf that you are ready to fight the Minotaur. The wooden door rises slowly, and you see the fearsome beast, half man, half bull, step into the arena. Steam blows from its nostrils as it works itself up into a rage, ready to attack. Suddenly it rushes forward, swinging its double-headed axe.
The Minotaur leans forward and takes a run at you. Speed is impressive, but you duck and roll aside, landing a heavy blow on its shin. The Minotaur swings its huge axe above its head. You step aside as it smashes into the floor. You're able to land an attack from the side. Your speed is improving. You run directly at the Minotaur and slice at its leg as you run by. The Minotaur leans forward and takes a run at you. Speed is impressive, but you duck and roll aside, landing a heavy blow on its shin. The Minotaur swings its huge axe above its head. You step aside as it smashes into the floor. You're able to land an attack from the side.
The dwarf calls down from the balcony, congratulating you on your victory. He throws the sack down into the arena and tells you to relax and regain your strength for the final part of the test. Then he walks off, saying he will return in about 10 minutes. You open the sack and find a jug of wine and a cooked chicken.
The food and drink are excellent, and you feel much better, gaining 2 more stamina points. Fully satisfied, you sit down and await the dwarf's return. After about 20 minutes, the dwarf reappears on the balcony. He calls down to you, saying,
Well, I do have an interesting problem on my hands. Prepare to fight your next opponent.
The wooden door rises once again, and you are surprised to see a familiar face. It is Throm. He is cut and badly bruised and doesn't seem to recognize you. He is clearly delirious as he staggers forward with his axe raised to attack you. The dwarf laughs and says,
The cobra bit him, but he has the strength of an ox and managed to carry on, even though most men would have died. Now you must fight him to decide finally which of you will continue the trial of champions.
You shout abuse at the dwarf, protesting the cruelty of such a contest. He merely laughs, and you have no option but to defend yourself against poor Throm. Despite his wounds, he is immensely strong.
You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
Throm grabs you by the throat and manages to half choke you before you get a chance to push him off. You drop to the ground, sweeping away Throm's legs. You hate it as he howls as his head hits the hard ground. Throm is tall, and you duck, grab him, and ram his head hard into the wall. You hurl yourself at Throm, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow on his chin. You drop to the ground, sweeping away Throm's legs. You hate it as he howls as his head hits the hard ground. Throm is tall, and you duck, grab him, and ram his head hard into the wall. You hurl yourself at Throm, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow on his chin.
Exhausted by your long duel, you fall to your knees as you stare at Throm's still body. A bitter loathing for the dwarf fills your heart. Somehow, you will avenge Throm. Engulfed in your hatred, you do not notice the dwarf enter the arena until he is standing right in front of you, a loaded crossbow aimed at your chest.
I know what you are thinking,
He says calmly.
but remember that only I know the way out of here. Get up. It's time for you to leave.
Once on your feet, the dwarf indicates that you should walk ahead of him. Back in the chamber, he crosses over to the northern wall and pushes against one of its stones. A door-like section of the wall swings out, opening into another crystal-lit tunnel. With his crossbow still aimed at your chest, the dwarf smiles, saying,
Good luck.
The tunnel soon divides into two. You hear a buzzing sound coming from the western branch.
There is a large panel of glass in the left-hand wall of the tunnel. Through it, you can see a bright, torch-lit room teeming with giant insects of every possible description. Bees, wasps, beetles, ticks. Even the mites are over 6 centimeters long. The noise is threatening. In the middle of the room, a jeweled crown lies on top of a small table. What looks like a large diamond is set in the middle of the crown. You smash the glass with the hilt of your sword, making a hole big enough to climb through. Immediately, the giant insects start swarming and jumping towards you. Wasting no time, you clamber into the room, grabbing one of the lit torches to defend yourself. The fire keeps most of the insects at bay, but by the time you have snatched the crown and climbed back into the corridor, some of them have stung you. We'll roll 1 die and add 2 to the total to decide how many stings you have suffered, reducing your stamina by 1 for each sting. The giant insects do not chase you, preferring the bright light of the room they are in. You examine the crown and see with disgust that it is merely painted iron, and the diamond is just glass and totally worthless. You throw it on the ground in a rage and wonder which way to go next. Ahead, in the far distance, you hear the sound of slow footsteps coming towards you. Unsure of who or what might be approaching, you look around for a place to hide. You see a large crack in the tunnel wall which lies in shadow. A crippled man with shackled feet shuffles into sight, carrying a wooden tray laden with bread and water. He looks tired and miserable, and quite unmoved by the sight of you, and tries to walk past. He eyes you suspiciously as you offer him a portion of your provisions. But hunger overcomes his fear and he crams the food into his mouth. You ask him what he is doing in the tunnels, and he explains that he is a servant of one of the trial masters, Baron Sukhumvit's appointed controllers of sections of his dungeon. He tells you he would like to escape, but no one is allowed to leave the dungeon in case the secret of its construction is revealed. You tell him that you are a contestant in the trial of champions and that you would appreciate any help. Rubbing his chin, he turns to you and says, "One good turn deserves another. All I can tell you is that in a northern tunnel, there is a wooden chair carved in the shape of a demon bird. There is a secret panel in the arm of the chair which contains a potion in a glass vial. It's a doppelganger potion. Now, I must go back about my duties. Good luck. I hope we meet again outside these infernal tunnels." The man then shuffles off, and you continue your journey west. After a short while, you arrive at another junction in the tunnel, with a choice of two directions. Set back in the arched alcove in the tunnel wall, you see an ornate wooden chair carved in the shape of a demon-like bird of prey. Remembering the old man's advice, you search the arm of the chair for a secret panel. You find an almost invisible crack in the arm, which you start to press and squeeze. Suddenly a tiny panel springs out of the arm, and you see a glass vial lying in a cavity. You pick it out and read the label. Doppelganger potion, 1 dose only. This liquid will make you assume the shape of any nearby living being. You place the strange potion in your backpack and continue north, where the tunnel starts to slope downwards and finally comes to an end at a deep pool enclosed by the tunnel wall. The words of the spirit girl's poem flash through your mind. When corridor doth water meet, do not make a quick retreat. Of course, it is here that she wants you to dive into the water. Now, you must decide what to do. Somewhat nervously, you take a deep breath and dive into the dark pool. The northern wall does not project very far beneath the surface of the water, and you decide to take the risk to swim under it. Soon, you start gasping for air and are forced to swim upwards. Trying not to think that you could be trapped in an old submerged tunnel, you are relieved when you surface into cool air. You are on the other side of the wall and can see the tunnel rising out of the water and continuing north into the distance. You wade out of the water and check if you've been lucky with the contents of your wet backpack. 2 portions of your provisions are saturated and are now inedible. Other than that, all your other possessions remain intact. You repack them carefully inside your backpack and set off north again. A little way along on the left of the tunnel wall, you reach the entrance of a large cavern from which you hear a girl's voice crying for help. You can just make out the shape of a human figure rolling about on the floor at the back of the cavern. As you approach the prostrate figure, you see she is an elf, one of your rivals in the trial of champions, and she is fighting for her life in the bone-crushing grip of an enormous boa constrictor. With one swipe of your trusty blade, you behead the boa constrictor. You uncoil its massive body from around the elf and try to resuscitate her. Her eyes open a little, but you can see that there is no hope. She looks at you and smiles, and then says in a whisper, "Thank you. I know it's too late for me, but I will tell you what I've learned. Your way out lies ahead, but you need gems to unlock the final door. One of them is a diamond, but I do not know what the others are. Alas, I have not found a diamond, but would urge you to look for one. Good luck." Her eyes close, and she slumps down onto the cold floor. You watch sadly as she breathes her last. Knowing she would not mind, you take 2 of her daggers and search her leather backpack. Inside, you find some unleavened bread, a mirror, and a bone charm in the shape of a monkey. Walking along the tunnel, you notice an iron grill in the floor. lying in a hole about a meter deep, you see a grappling iron and a leather pouch. You reach down into the hole and suddenly your blood runs cold as you feel something warm and sticky wrapping itself around your arm. You manage to pull your arm out of the hole, but a hideous tentacled limb with unbelievably strong suckers is clinging to you. By the time you manage to cut yourself free, your arm is trembling with pain, and you wonder whether luck is on your side. Having had the sense not to put your sword arm into the hole, the effects of the tentacled arm are not too serious, meaning you only lose one skill point. You reach back into the hole and pull out the grappling iron and the leather pouch. Inside the pouch, you find a tiny brass bell. You pack away your new possessions and continue north. A door comes into view in the left-hand wall of the tunnel. You listen carefully at it and hear nothing. The door is not locked, and the handle turns easily. The door opens into a small dark room, which is empty apart from a sturdy wooden chest lying on a shelf on a far wall. The floor is thick with dust, and you can clearly see fresh footprints leading from the door to the chest and back again. You wonder whether one of your rivals is still ahead of you on the walk, or whether the chest has only recently been placed on the shelf by one of the trial masters. Although you check the chest carefully for any hidden devices, you are unable to see the trap inside it. As you lift the lid, an iron ball hanging on a cord swings back, shattering the glass capsule fixed inside the lid. A cloud of poisonous gas is instantly released into the air, and you stagger back, coughing and spluttering, losing 4 stamina points. Once the gas is cleared, you walk back to the chest and look inside. There is a pendant chain lying in the bottom of it, but somebody has already removed the stone from its setting. This annoys you so much that you throw the chain onto the floor and storm out of the room and up the tunnel. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead, you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large golden effigy. As soon as they see you, the troglodytes raise their bows and run to surround you. To your horror, their leader then steps forward and declares that you are their prisoner and must subject yourself to trial by the ancient rite, the run of the arrow.
In their twittering voices, the troglodytes explain the rules of the run of the arrow. They will shoot an arrow into the distance, and you will be allowed to walk unharmed to the point where it lands. However, you must walk barefoot, and you can see that the floor of the cavern is littered with sharp stones. As soon as you reach the arrow, the troglodytes will start to chase you, and if they catch you, they will kill you. Suddenly, one of the troglodytes releases an arrow high into the air. It lands a long way away, and immediately the troglodytes urge you to walk towards it. As you walk slowly towards the arrow, you hear the troglodytes screaming excitedly behind you. On reaching the arrow, you look round to see the troglodytes wave their arms in the air and set off after you. You start running as fast as you can. Your feet, bleeding from the cuts inflicted by the sharp stones, decreases your stamina by 1 point. Ahead, you see an underground river running east to west across the cavern floor, with a wooden bridge crossing it. After crossing the bridge, you run across the cavern floor. At last, you see a tunnel in the far wall, which you race down until you reach its end at a heavy wooden door. The door is locked. As you try to charge down the door with your shoulder, you hear the shrieking voices of the troglodytes coming down the tunnel. You are trapped and draw your sword. The troglodytes approach you, their bows drawn, and a hail of arrows strikes you with fatal impact. Your lifeless body slumps to the ground in the depths of Deathtrap Dungeon. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large golden effigy. You pour the contents of the glass vial into your mouth and swallow the clear liquid. Although you do not feel any immediate change, you hope that the potion will create the illusion that you are a troglodyte, just like the ones in front of you. Taking a deep breath, you step boldly into the cavern. The troglodytes continue their tribal dance, believing you to be one of them. You walk past them casually and head north. Unfortunately, the effects of the potion are short-lived. Suddenly, you hear a shriek behind you as one of the troglodytes spots you, and you are forced to run across the cavern floor. Ahead, you see an underground river running east to west through the cavern, and a wooden bridge crossing over it. Still running as fast as you can, you dive into the river. Let's see if you were lucky enough to grab hold of something. You grab one of the underwater bridge pillars and cling to it for dear life. Holding a short breath, you gulped in as you dived. Close behind you, the troglodytes reach the river and, unable to see you, think you must have been swept to your death downriver into the depths of the mountain. But the short breath you took is quickly running out, and the pain in your lungs forces you to rise to the surface for air. Let's hope your luck is in and you're not seen. You surface as quietly as you can, and fortunately none of the troglodytes see you as they disperse. Once they are gone, you climb out of the river and cross the bridge to the northern bank. Any remaining provisions you had are now soaked and inedible. You continue to walk through the vast cavern until at last you see a tunnel in the far wall. You walk down it until you come to a heavy wooden door, which is locked. As you try to charge down the door with your shoulder, you hear the shrieking voices of the troglodytes coming down the tunnel. You are trapped and draw your sword. The troglodytes approach you, the bows drawn, and a hail of arrows strikes you with fatal impact. Your lifeless body slumps to the ground in the depths of Deathtrap Dungeon. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large golden effigy. You crawl along the floor, and you find yourself in the lair of a tribe of troglodytes. As you creep past them, your scabbard bangs against the rock on the floor. Do you have enough luck for them not to hear you? The troglodytes are too involved in their tribal dancing to hear the clatter of your sword, and you crawl past. When you think you are far enough away, you stand up and run across the cavern floor. Ahead, you see an underground river running east to west through the cavern with a wooden bridge crossing over it. Hearing a noise, you glance back and realize you have been spotted. The troglodytes are chasing you. After crossing the bridge, you run across the cavern floor. At last, you see a tunnel in the far wall, which you race down until you reach its end at a heavy wooden door. The door is locked. As you try to charge down the door with your shoulder, you hear the shrieking voices of the troglodytes coming down the tunnel. You are trapped and draw your sword. The troglodytes approach you, the bows drawn, and a hail of arrows strikes you with fatal impact. Your lifeless body slumps to the ground in the depths of Deathtrap Dungeon. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large golden effigy. As soon as they see you, The troglodytes raise their bows and run to surround you. To your horror, their leader then steps forward and declares that you are their prisoner and must subject yourself to trial by the ancient rite, the run of the arrow. You leap forward and try to grab the leader to use as a hostage. However, the troglodytes are ready for your move, and 6 of their bowmen immediately shoot their arrows at you. Their aim is deadly accurate, and all 6 arrows find their mark. Lifeless, you fall to the floor. The troglodytes have abruptly ended your journey. A little way along on the left of the tunnel wall, you reach the entrance of a large cavern from which you hear a girl's voice crying for help. You can just make out the shape of a human figure rolling about on the floor at the back of the cavern. Walking along the tunnel, you notice an iron grill in the floor. Lying in a hole about a meter deep, you see a grappling iron and a leather pouch. You reach down into the hole and suddenly your blood runs cold as you feel something warm and sticky wrapping itself around your arm. You manage to pull your arm out of the hole, but a hideous tentacled limb with unbelievably strong suckers is clinging to you. By the time you manage to cut yourself free, your arm is trembling with pain, and you wonder whether luck is on your side. Having had the sense not to put your sword arm into the hole, the effects of the tentacled arm are not too serious, meaning you only lose one skill point. You reach back into the hole and pull out the grappling iron and the leather pouch. Inside the pouch, you find a tiny brass bell. You pack away your new possessions and continue north. A door comes into view in the left-hand wall of the tunnel. You listen carefully at it and hear nothing. The door is not locked, and the handle turns easily. The door opens into a small dark room, which is empty apart from a sturdy wooden chest lying on a shelf on a far wall. The floor is thick with dust, and you can clearly see fresh footprints leading from the door to the chest and back again. You wonder whether one of your rivals is still ahead of you on the walk, or whether the chest has only recently been placed on the shelf by one of the trial masters. Although you check the chest carefully for any hidden devices, you are unable to see the trap inside it. As you lift the lid, an iron ball hanging on a cord swings back, shattering the glass capsule fixed inside the lid. A cloud of poisonous gas is instantly released into the air, and you stagger back, coughing and spluttering, losing 4 stamina points. Once the gas is cleared, you walk back to the chest and look inside. There is a pendant chain lying in the bottom of it, but somebody has already removed the stone from its setting. This annoys you so much that you throw the chain onto the floor and storm out of the room and up the tunnel. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large golden effigy. As soon as they see you, the troglodytes raise their bows and run to surround you. To your horror, their leader then steps forward and declares that you are their prisoner and must subject yourself to trial by the ancient rite, the run of the arrow. You leap forward and try to grab the leader to use as a hostage. However, the troglodytes are ready for your move, and 6 of their bowmen immediately shoot their arrows at you. Their aim is deadly accurate, and all 6 arrows find their mark. Lifeless, you fall to the floor. The troglodytes have abruptly ended your journey. A little way along on the left of the tunnel wall, you reach the entrance of a large cavern from which you hear a girl's voice crying for help. You can just make out the shape of a human figure rolling about on the floor at the back of the cavern. As you approach the prostrate figure,
You see, she is an elf, one of your rivals in the trial of champions, and she is fighting for her life in the bone-crushing grip of an enormous boa constrictor. With one swipe of your trusty blade, you behead the boa constrictor. You uncoil its massive body from around the elf and try to resuscitate her. Her eyes open a little, but you can see that there is no hope. She looks at you and smiles, and then says in a whisper, "Thank you. I know it's too late for me, but I will tell you what I've learned. Your way out lies ahead, but you need gems to unlock the final door. One of them is a diamond, but I do not know what the others are. Alas, I have not found a diamond, but would urge you to look for one. Good luck." Her eyes close, and she slumps down onto the cold floor. You watch sadly as she breathes her last. Knowing she would not mind, you take 2 of her daggers and search her leather backpack. Inside, you find some unleavened bread, a mirror, and a bone charm in the shape of a monkey. The bread contains secret elven healing herbs, which increase your stamina by 3 points. Feeling sad, yet strong, you pack away the mirror and the charm and leave the cavern to head north. Walking along the tunnel, you notice an iron grill in the floor. A door comes into view in the left-hand wall of the tunnel. You listen carefully at it and hear nothing. The door is not locked, and the handle turns easily. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large gold. After a short while, you arrive at another junction in the tunnel with a choice of 2 directions. The tunnel turns sharply to the right and continues north for as far as you can see. There is a door in the left-hand wall which is ajar, and you hear someone cry for help from the other side of it. The door opens into a small room with a straw-covered floor. There is a large draped cage standing some 2 meters high in the center of the room. A cord fixed to the top of the drape runs through an iron ring in the ceiling and hangs down to the floor. You pull the cord and watch the drape as it rises up the sides of an iron cage. The woman's voice urges you to be quick, telling you that the room is booby-trapped, so that the floor will fall away in 1 minute because of your extra weight. The drape rises to the top of the cage, and there, to your horror, you see the face of an aged woman whose hair is a mass of seething snakes. It is the dreaded Medusa. Are you lucky enough to avoid her gaze? Recognizing the snake-like head of the Medusa, you close your eyes to avoid her deadly stare that would turn you to stone. The Medusa shrieks as you enter her cage. Keeping your eyes firmly closed and slashing your sword wildly from side to side, you feel the blade sink deep into her side and hear a loud thud as she slumps heavily to the ground. You open your eyes again and shudder at the sight of the prostrate figure of the Medusa. Her gown is fastened by a large brooch bearing a single bright red gem. It is a garnet, and you prize it out of its setting, put it in your pocket, and leave the room to head north. The tunnel continues for quite a distance before you reach a junction. Ahead, you see that the tunnel turns a corner, beyond which it continues north. You stop before the corner, startled by the sound of high-pitched voices, whispering and sniggering. You peep around the corner and see two small creatures running away from you. Both are dressed in baggy clothes and wear pointed floppy hats. They are mischievous leprechauns. Running after the leprechauns, you hear more laughter, only now it is behind you. You look round and see 6 more emerging from a hidden door in the tunnel wall. Yet another leprechaun drops on your back from a ledge fixed to the ceiling. Shaking him off, you draw your sword, whereupon the laughing gets even louder. Before you can take a single step towards the leprechauns, one of them throws some sparkling dust at you. You are immediately frozen to the spot, unable to move a muscle. You watch helplessly as the leprechauns rummage through your backpack and run off with all your possessions, leaving your backpack empty and also robbing you of 2 luck points. About an hour later, the freezing effect of the dust wears off and feeling returns to your limbs. You are angry at your loss and stomp off north, determined to have your revenge. The tunnel leads north for some distance before coming to a dead end. The mouth of a chute protrudes from the tunnel's eastern wall. It seems to be the only way out, so you decide to risk it and climb into the chute. You slide gently down and emerge in a new room, landing on your back. As soon as you stand up, you are confronted by the most repulsive sight you have ever laid eyes on. There in front of you, wallowing in a circular pool of fetid slime, is a bulbous creature too horrible to be believed. Its body is green and covered all over with fearsome-looking spikes. Its face is a mass of crimson blisters, one of which suddenly bursts to reveal yet another of its many sinister, all-seeing eyes. A narrow path runs around the edge of the pool and leads into another tunnel in the far wall. Remembering the description of the vile blood beast and the warning about the toxic gas rising from its pool, you cover your mouth with your sleeve and step forward with your sword drawn, wary of the blood beast's tongue. As you step around the side of the pool, it rolls forward and flicks out its tongue. But you are ready for it and cleave it with one swipe of your sword. The beast howls in pain and stretches forward frantically, trying to clasp you between its blood-filled jaws. You start hacking at its hideous face in an attempt to pierce its real eyes.
The creature reaches for you with its mouth from the pool. You step back to avoid it, but slip on its fetid slime. It sinks its teeth into your ankle, costing you precious stamina.
You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
The blood beast's tail whips around you. You duck, but not quickly enough, and it punctures your arm deeply.
You try your luck, and your luck is in.
You slip on the slimy floor, landing on your back, which is lucky because you narrowly avoid the blood beast's tail whipping past where your head just was. Breathing heavily during your fight, you begin to succumb to the toxic gas and fall, cracking your head on the floor. The creature turns and whips its tail at you. The fierce spike at the end misses you by millimeters. You jump forward and strike a clean blow into its rear. Again, the bulbous creature strikes for you with its hideous fangs. You jump clear of them, striking out and smashing one clean out of its hideous mouth.
Your blade strikes one of the blood beast's real eyes with devastating effect. It slumps back into its pool, thrashing about in a frenzy. You seize the opportunity and run around the side of the pool to the tunnel exit. The tunnel leads into a large room, its ceiling supported by several marble pillars.
As you enter the room, you see a strange beast to your right. It has the body of a lion with dragon-like wings attached to it, but its head is like that of an old bearded man. The beast before you is the dreaded manticore. The tip of its tail sprouts a profusion of sharp spikes, thick and hard as iron bolts. Suddenly it flicks its tail, sending a volley of spikes flying towards you. We'll roll one die to decide how many spikes that sink into your body. You'll lose 2 stamina points for each spike. You stagger forward to attack the manticore with your sword before it has had time to unleash any more of its deadly spikes.
You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points. You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
The creature runs directly at you. You move too late, and the creature smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's leg, but it's ready for you. And before you can strike, it rips your leg with its razor-sharp claws. The giant creature whips its spiked tail at you, firing more spikes. You duck and roll, quickly slicing a chunk from its tail, passing close to you. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's back leg and manage to bury your sword deep into its thigh. You run to avoid the whipping tail, but stumble, and a spike from it thuds agonizingly into your shoulder. The creature runs directly at you. You move too late, and the creature smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina.
You try your luck, but no good this time. You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points.
You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's leg, but it's ready for you. And before you can strike, it rips your leg with its razor-sharp claws. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn, but just as you thought you'd land a crushing blow, the creature whips around, parrying your effort. Neither of you are harmed. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn. It tries to move, but you land a powerful blow. The giant creature whips its spiked tail at you, firing more spikes. You duck and roll, quickly slicing a chunk from its tail, passing close to you. You run to avoid the whipping tail, but stumble, and a spike from it thuds agonizingly into your shoulder. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's back leg and manage to bury your sword deep into his thigh. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn. It tries to move, but you land a powerful blow.
As you are wiping the manticore's blood from your sword, you are surprised to see a small man jump out from behind one of the marble pillars. He is dressed in a tight-fitting green tunic and looks quite harmless, although you are wary of the way he is holding an opaque glass ball with a shimmering green light. "Greetings," he says cheerfully. "My name is Igbot, the gnome, and I am the trial master for your final test. Needless to say, my magical powers are great, so you should not try to attack me. You may have learnt during your quest that gems play an essential part in the trial of champions. The iron door in front of you is the victory exit, but there is only one way of opening it. 3 gems have to be put into the lock mechanism in the correct order. Each gem radiates a unique energy, which will trigger the mechanism. If you do it correctly, that is. But first, we need the correct gems. First, you will need